Hello, welcome to Salt and Light Canning. I'm Jessica and this is my kitchen. Today I am making some soup. I'm finishing up my winter canning because we're going into garden season and planting and harvest, and I am so very excited. So today I'm finishing up some of my winter canning, which is soup. I'm making chicken soup. I have some chicken here, onions, carrots, potatoes, and celery. I'm going to get them all cut up and put in my pot right here. So I'm peeling my carrots and potatoes, because you should peel root vegetables for canning, and then I'll get them in the pot. Check out my Amazon storefront below. My knives that I'm using here are by Rita, and they are in my Amazon storefront. They're just wonderful. I really like them. But I'm gonna get all my veggies in this pot. I'll be back when I'm doing something else. All right, I'm gonna cut up my chicken, get it in the pot. You can put anything in your soup that you like. Don't do things like dairy or pasta or rice or funky kinds of thickeners, but as far as your meat and your veggies go, do what you like. All right, we're gonna get our soup heated up. Something to remember about soup is that you have to have enough liquid in your jar. So normal rule of thumb is about 50% liquid to 50% solids. Just do your best, okay? Don't stress about canning. Don't stress about any of it. Just do the best that you can, okay? So I just have some chicken broth here that I made. You get these poured in here. You can just use any chicken broth. You can use store-bought chicken broth. You can use just bouillon. Let me turn on my stove here. Use what you have. The whole point in canning is to preserve what you have, okay? I truthfully just go through my refrigerator, go through my freezer, see what I have, and that's what I decide to can. Now I do have a list that I make before garden season. I make out a list of things that I would like to can with what I know that I'm planting. But in general, with canning, for me, is to preserve what I have. I know the types of foods that my family likes, but it is just to preserve what I have and not to waste it. You know, I'm blessed that God's given me so much, and I don't want to squander what He's given me. I want to be able to preserve it and use it and bless somebody else with it too. Chicken can end up being at least 2 meals for you, right? You have the chicken when you eat it, then you have the bones from the same chicken. But if you don't know how to preserve chicken broth and make chicken broth out of chicken bones, then you only get to eat your chicken. Or if you're blessed to have chickens for eggs, then you get the eggs and you can eat the chicken and you can make broth with the bones. So Options. Make what you have stretch as far as you can. We usually use soup as like a quick meal, or I take it for lunch. It's just easy to do. All right, got my chicken broth in there. Now, I'm gonna add some seasoning. Please season your soup however you like to season your soup. If you don't want to add seasoning at all right now, that's fine. Add seasoning when you want to add seasoning. You know, you could just put your chicken and your broth and your vegetables in the jar and then season it when you go to eat it. Lots of people do it that way. I just like everything ready to go in the jar because it's easier for me to take with me to work. I'm going to add some more vegetables. So I have frozen peas. So I'm going to add frozen peas. I also have some frozen corn. Use what you have. If you don't have frozen corn, don't add frozen corn. Okay. I've also done this with like freeze-dried vegetables, or I've also just used like dried peas and I've just rehydrated them, soaked them in some water, and then put them in my soup. Make your soup however you make soup. All right, where's my spoon? Now, because I know I don't really put much salt in my broth, I'm gonna add some salt. This is kosher salt. Use kosher salt or canning salt, or you know what, I've used pink Himalayan salt. The only thing is it can make your jars cloudy. But if you don't care about that, don't worry about it. I'm going to add some celery seed, probably just a little bit. Some black pepper. Probably about that much. Some granulated garlic. There's not much left in here, so I'll just add the whole thing. Onion, granulated onion. Herbes de Provence. I probably say that wrong, but that's okay. A little bit of just regular paprika. This is not smoked paprika, it's just paprika. And that's probably enough. I'm gonna let everything get heated through, and then I will taste my broth in here and see if I want to add anything. And then I will put it in the jar. I'm not gonna get it cooked on the stove, just heated through. And it'll finish cooking in the pressure canner. So I'll be back when I'm putting it in the jar. So my soup is heated through and it tastes wonderful and it smells just wonderful. So I'm gonna put it in jars. I always try to stir and scoop from the bottom. That way we get some of everything in our scoop. My goal is going to be about 50% solids to 50% liquids. However, it doesn't always work that way. Don't stress out about canning, okay? It's going to be just fine. We're going to fill to 1 inch of headspace, and because we're going to be pressure canning, we're just going to do our best, okay? Debubble really well. Now I'm using all button top lids because, like I said, I take soup to work all the time. I give it away. If someone's not feeling well, I'll send them, you know, a box with some soup and some things in it to help them feel better. So I don't use my reusable lids on things that I know there's a possibility that I can lose them. So I wiped the rim really well with vinegar and put my lid on and my ring on. This is very, very hot. Just to fingertip tight. I'll move on to the next one. I've seen a lot of questions lately on, different brands of jars. I use all kinds of jars. I use Ball, I use Kerr, I use Golden Harvest. There was a time that we couldn't get canning jars. It was one of the shortages, and I bought jars from Uline. But the truth of the matter is, if it came down to whether or not I was able to preserve food for my family, I'll use any jar, I would even use just jars from the store, that I had purchased food in and just reuse them. So I know in general there can be a lot of debate on what's safe to use, what's not to use. Jar's a jar. I mean, obviously try and do your best to get good quality jars because they're going to last you for years and years and years and years and years, and probably down to your children. But if it was a choice whether or not I could preserve food for my family or not, I'll use any jar. And I do have preferences on lids. Like, I'll use the Ball, I'll use the Kerr, I'll use the Golden Harvest. I love my reusable lids, and if I was not able to get any other lids, I have enough reusable lids to last at least one canning season, probably more. But truthfully, it's just the kind that you get the best that you can, right? Do what works for you, but don't stress out about canning. Don't stress out about anything. It's not worth it. There are lots of ways to preserve food. And if it's canning, that's great. If it's dehydrating, that's great. If it's just freezing, that's great too. Do what works for you, what works for your family, what you're going to eat and what you're going to like. I have 32 jars, and because my soup was hot, I had hot water in my canners. So I'm going to put the lids on, and we're going to bring it up to temperature, and we want it to start venting. Now our canners need to vent for 10 minutes because that's what it says in my instruction manual. And once they vent for 10 minutes, we're going to bring them up to pressure. I can at 15 pounds of pressure for my altitude. Please check your altitude. Can what's appropriate for your altitude. And we're going to process them at 15 pounds of pressure for 1 hour. That's according to the Can Any Soup on the National Center for Home Food Preservation. And we'll be back when we're taking them out of the canner. Well, our timer went off and everything, I turned everything off, and our canners came down from pressure naturally, slowly, and now we're ready to take them out. And everything is bubbling and going nuts in the jar, and that is normal. That's what happens with pressure canning. Sometimes it happens with water bath canning too. But these are gonna sit right here on my counter and relax and seal and have a good night. Tomorrow I will come in and I will take all the rings off and wash my jars and label them and put them in the pantry. And then we will have chicken soup on our shelf for as long as I need it. I know I've said this before, but it doesn't take much longer to make a big pot of soup than to make a small pot of soup. And if you're going to make soup, you might as well can it and have it on your shelf, because then it's ready for you all year for whatever you need. But I hope this blessed you. I hope it encouraged you. You know, don't be afraid to try. If you have produce in your refrigerator that needs to be used, they're being very loud about ceiling tonight. If you have produce in your refrigerator that needs to be used, or maybe you just need to clear some space out in your freezer for the harvest that you know you're going to have, make some soup. Any kind of soup that your family likes. Be so blessed. Know that you're loved, and be a blessing to someone else. We'll see you in the next video.